Why do we constantly reminisce about the past, and why is it that when we do, we are always saying that it was way better back then than it is now? Well, the answer is simple. It's nostalgia. But what is nostalgia, and why does it occur, and how does it shape our perspective of our current existence? And most importantly, why do we have this feeling when it comes to video games, particularly Call of Duty Zombies? But before we get into the video, I want to give a shout out to this video's sponsor, Bofa. Bofa is a one-of-a-kind company that provides a monthly subscription service like no other company has before. For just $9.99 a month, you can have Bofa D's nuts slap you across the wrist. That's right, for just $9.99 a month. And for just $19.99 a month, you can have Bofa D's nuts slap you across your face. Thank you so much to Bofa for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the main content.
Got him!
So before we dive in here, what is the exact definition of nostalgia? Something that we can all agree upon. Well, according to Google or the dictionary, whatever you want to call this, I guess, a bittersweet longing for things, persons, or situations of the past. They also call it a condition of being homesick or homesickness, which we will talk about in a little bit. And they also call it a morbid longing to return to one's home or native country, homesickness, especially in its severe forms, producing derangement of mental and physical functions. And this is actually kind of interesting. Like I said, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I think definition number one is kind of what we're going to focus on here. You see, the thing about nostalgia is that it is a very powerful and convincing emotion. It can make you think and feel things that aren't even part of reality, or it can take existing elements of your life and exacerbate them to an even greater level. It's quite fascinating. And interestingly enough, nostalgia used to be looked at as a mental disorder. Remember the homesick things I was just talking about? So good thing it's no longer looked at in the same light, because entire industries are built upon this premise. Think about all the movies and TV shows and video games that are getting rebooted for the purposes of nostalgia. Studies about nostalgia tend to show overall obvious takeaways, which are one, that people feel more nostalgic when they are with friends and family rather than places like work and school, which I find to be obvious, obviously, but it's also kind of showing that our work and school, like our institutions that we have to face day to day, they're just not great, and people are finding nostalgia in every other place other than those, which is fascinating. Not the topic of this video, but fascinating nonetheless. And two, most people are likely to feel nostalgia when they are in a depressed mood, as it tends to lift people's spirits and boost their mood to an overall positive sentiment. And I will have the article to this linked down below. Like I said, these are pretty obvious takeaways, but why are we feeling this way when it comes to Call of Duty Zombies? Well, I think the answer has both simplistic and intermediate levels of complexity baked into it. The first explanation is obviously based on those studies from the psychology article we just discussed, and that is when you're growing up playing zombies with your brother, your friend, your cousin, or randoms online, you had a great and memorable experience with something fun and new. Maybe you would wake up early to play Transit before school, or perhaps you had an open lunch and would just rush home to squeeze in a couple rounds of Doris before you had to head back to school. Whatever the memory you hold nearest and dearest to your heart, it is currently fueled by nostalgia. Now, remember when I said there was another level to this? Well, first of all, it's not that complex of a concept, as you're not going to be able to wrap your head around it, but it's more of a theory that I have been chewing on for a while, and I think it plays a huge part into why we have nostalgia for some of our most beloved moments in our personal history. This has to do with pattern recognition and the experience of awe and wonder, or just your first time doing something. And it's just my belief that nostalgia and pattern recognition and your first time experience, I think they're all linked or correlated in some way, shape, or form. Your first kiss, your first car, your first party, your first zombies match, whatever it was, that moment was filled with awe and wonder. But then you continually perform the same actions over and over again. It becomes stale, and you need heightened levels of that same experience to make it exciting. The higher up the chain of innovation you go with whatever experience you're fiending for, the shorter the duration of the excitement that correlates to it. This is related to the reward center of our brains, which is linked with dopamine production, but we're not going to get into all that. When we booted up COD for our first time, back in the World at War days, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, particularly with zombies. But slowly, over time, we sought out to explore and discover all these amazing things inside of the game. But that means we solved the puzzle. We figured out the pattern of that game. Now, that magic is gone, and it needs to be refilled. It needs to be taken to the next level. Black Ops 1 comes out. The maps are bigger. There are new enemies. There are mini quests. There are new wonder weapons. There are rewards baked in, alongside a huge new story, and all the main mechanics that made World at War so much fun were still there. But again, we solved the pattern. We needed more, so we moved on. Black Ops 2, we get Mob of the Dead and Origins. These amazing mechanics are the bedrock of this zombies game, but now we have even more quests, staffs, demonic shotguns. But in time, we figured out the pattern, which means it's time to move on. Black Ops 3, this is when Treyarch solidified that pattern of zombies by taking the narratives, the map design, wonder weapons, and quests, and then they added huge boss fights to boot. We had peaked to the height of the zombie mountain, but again, we played that game to death, we figured out the patterns, and we needed more. Black Ops 4 comes out, and everybody is just pissed off because this zombies mode is now curated. Power, shield, pack-a-punch, quest, boss. Rinse and repeat for 8 maps. Our pattern has become stale. We need evolution, not a repeat. You combine this with Infinite Warfare zombies and World War II zombies who also used the BO3 game design. We were fatigued. Do you see what I'm saying here? We are so hooked on nostalgia and yearning for the good old days because we have solved the ultimate Easter egg of all, and that is the premise, the pattern, and the gameplay loop of zombies. We have beaten it. We have cracked the case. We know what to expect. We know what is going to happen. There is also another psychological component to this perspective that fits loosely to my thesis, and that is from the article that I referenced a moment ago, and this is what it had to say. And bear with me, it's a little long, there's a little bit of repetition, but it will make sense when I finish it. It could be that nostalgia leads to negative emotions. To see if they could find a hint of a causal relationship between nostalgia and mood, Newman and his colleagues also performed a time lag analysis. That is, they correlated each instance of nostalgia with mood later that day and the next day. Mood tended to remain low throughout that time period. That suggests that nostalgia is either ineffective at boosting mood or that it can even cause negative feelings of depression. This is why every year we see a new COD title releasing around the corner, we think, this is it, it's gonna get me hooked again, and we play it for 5 minutes and are immediately bored because we've done this already. Would it excite you if you went on your date knowing that you were gonna get a kiss by the end of the evening? No. Part of that excitement is in the unknown, and zombies is all but unknown. In fact, this is a huge problem inside the entertainment industry as a whole. It's stale and it's a shell of its former self. We have all this great technology and are at the pinnacle of entertainment consumption and creation, but the last few monumental things that have come out of it, at least in the United States, are few and far between. We have Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, Stranger Things, and no, the MCU does not count. That shit is awful. It's like a pop-up carnival of media. But there's also anime, and I know like manga has good storytelling and it's pretty original, but I don't know much about it, so you could tell me I'm wrong in the comments, but whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. And not that there's anything wrong with impactful pieces of media coming out over time, but it seemed like back in the 60s all the way through the early 2000s there was amazing pieces of art like every month. But that's just probably the nostalgia talking. Before we wrap up here, I want to say that this doesn't mean zombies is dead or that Call of Duty is shit or that it's never going to come back to be a great game mode. I do still think zombies is great. I just have a totally different perspective about it in 2022. I also want to say that there's nothing wrong with feeling nostalgic or preferring older games. You're not bad for liking something 1 minute and hating it the next. You're not a toxic person for participating in the COD cycle. You are a person with feelings and emotions and experiences. They shape you. They define you. I can go from moment to moment changing how I feel about Call of Duty Zombies. I can love it, then hate it, then feel neutral about it. I mean, this can happen in a 24-hour period. And you know what? I'm going to embrace it. It's how I feel. It's who I am, and so be it. Now, I do want to qualify that we're not talking about running your day-to-day life by your emotions, but when it comes to art or video games, it's 100% okay to judge these things based on your feelings if you want. Go with your gut. Just don't be an asshole. Now, I want to talk about this band called Polyphia for a second. They are all the rage on the internet right now, and for good reason. They're fucking amazing. But they have taken music to a new place. They have fused genres into something that most people in the industry never thought to be possible in the current landscape, particularly the landscape of music. They have combined technical metalhead-like instrumentals into pop music, and it's insane. Here's a quick example. This is what Zombies once was. It was a mashup of great genres of gaming, and then it was turned into its own unique thing. Think about what COD Zombies is and ask yourself, what other game is like it? There is not one. Not Left 4 Dead, not State of Decay. There is nothing else like Call of Duty Zombies. It is actually a unique mode. So next time when you're sitting around and you're thinking about how COD is dead and a broken franchise and Zombies sucks and will this ever be the same, ask yourself, why do I feel like this? It's because you have outsmarted the mode. You know what to expect and are simply yearning for the days when you did not have the answers to the world and you could genuinely participate in escapism without having to wonder if Treyarch is going to outperform themselves in the next game. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I am really interested in your guys' opinions about all this, so please leave your comments in the comment section down below the like button, and let's be civil about this. I know Call of Duty is a hot topic. I don't want to piss off anybody. I'm just trying to have a conversation with you here. So again, make sure to leave a like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.